So this is my tutorial for how to set up a free version control server with Azure DevOps, which is basically the same as GitHub. If you know how GitHub works, if you used Git before, you'll be very familiar with this. So right now I'm just making a project to show in it, and once it's done compiling all the shaders, I'll show how to set it up with the server. By the way, this will only use things like command line to do the actual Git stuff. There won't be any like official integration of it. Like I know Unreal has its own Git tools integrated into the engine. I'm not going to use those. I don't personally use those. I personally use git bash to do it all through command line. So here we go. The project is done. So this is just a base Unreal Engine 5.4 project. I just made it in the VR template because why not? So I actually don't need this at the moment. So all the assets are made now. Everything I need is here. So I'm gonna close this. I don't need the project open to do any of this. So next, I'm going to go to my file explorer, and so this is just the name of the project. It's whatever yours might be in your Unreal Engine projects folder. Down this one in your documents, that's the default folder. I made my own folder for this to make it easier. So what you want to do is you want to have this folder ready to go here, and then you want to go to Azure DevOps, and specifically I clicked on my organization in Azure DevOps and I clicked create new project, and this is the screen I'm greeted with. So I'm going to call this one same thing that the Unreal project was, and let's see, version control. Yep, that's all it. So you just create the project like that, and once you're in, you're going to need to make a repo. So here is the repo that, because I didn't make one yet, I need to do that on my own. So the best way to do this is so the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to add this to my clipboard, and now I'm going to go into this folder here and right click and do git bash. You can do this with command line too if you want to. I prefer git bash. It's kind of arbitrary which one you use. So point is, you need to have a command line open in this folder. Sorry about that, I did something slightly wrong. You actually want to be in your documents folder if you're doing this the way that I was thinking of doing it. So to go back, you just do cd space ... That takes you backwards in your file explorer in the command line. So now I'm going to do the same thing, and yeah, now it's going to ask you to sign in. Let me do that real quick. So in my case, it says warning, you appear to have cloned an empty repository. That is normal because I didn't add any files yet. I'm about to do that. So if I go in here, it just has the .git and no files. So we're going to go back up to this one, and we're going to grab everything in this folder. And there's better ways to do this, but I'm just going to copy it all over. So give it however long. There we go. And now this is the important thing to know, how to use Git. So the way that you do it is now there's a bunch of changes that are different from what's in the cloud. So in order to do that, I need to git add, and you can either git add the individual files or individual folders that are different, or you can do git add dot. That's another thing. You need to go back into your folder here, and it will say master here if you did it correctly. That's how you know if you actually are in the correct folder. And so what you then do is the same thing I was saying. So git add dot. It might take a second because Unreal projects are really big. especially with starter content. I think starter content can make them up to 500 megabytes. So that's too big even for GitHub normally, and that's just with starter content. So I will give it a second, and once it's done, I'll show how to commit and push it, and then I'll show how to pull it and clone it on other computers. Okay, so it's done, and ignore these warnings. They don't really mean anything. So now what I want to do is the initial commit. This is what's going to put all the stuff from the project into the repository remotely. So I'm going to git commit, and this will take me to this. So you have to give your git commits a message or a name. I usually give them one that explains what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. So in this case, I'm going to call it the initial commit. And then you backspace, colon, press X and enter. That will exit the commit thing, and you can see a lot of files in here. This is everything we just created. And then I'm going to, so it still is not in the cloud. This is just now Git, this thing here has like these saved on there locally. To put this into the cloud, I need to do this, git push. This will probably take a second, and it will then push them to the cloud, to Azure DevOps, where then I'll be able to clone this on, say, a different computer if I want. So give it a second. This also will take a while. These don't normally take this long with Git, but because we're dealing with such big files, this is a normal issue to run into. One note, you can also do this with the GitHub desktop manager if you personally use that. It all works the same. It's just a GUI instead of a command line interface for this. I prefer the command line for this because that's what I know how to use, but if you prefer to use a GUI, you can. I mean, you can set this up with Unreal Engine's official Git tools. Like Unreal Engine has the ability to commit and push and all that. It doesn't have the ability to push. It has the ability to add and commit in its Git tools that are in the engine itself. At least I think that's how they work. So if you want to use those, you can. You have to do some setup for that to work. There's other guides for how to do that, because Azure DevOps, like I said, it works the same way as Git when you actually are using it. There's just some difference in how you need to set it up because it's a different service. Okay, so now if I go to this web page here, now you can see it added all of these files here, and now there is this thing, clone, which is basically, this is for if I want to do it on a different computer. So now, as you can see, all of the stuff has been added to the repo now. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to reclone it on this computer because it works the same way as it would for another computer. The only difference is I would need to redo that same thing. So I cut that out, but when you first clone something on your computer from Azure DevOps, you need to log into it, which is, if you've already set up your Azure DevOps account, which you have to made the repo, you can do it, but Microsoft is a pain to log into. We all know that. So be aware of that. It can take some time to log yourself in, and it will automatically create you a personal access token that you will then use to actually clone and add and commit. So I'm going to skip that for this step just to show you how you would then clone it again on a different computer. So just to show this, I'm going to clone it into my videos folder. There's no reason for that. It's just I needed some folder to put it in that would make sense. So let's do that. So I click clone, I click on this, and then like before, git clone paste. Now it will take a second to clone it, but once you have it done, it will after it's finished, all be there, all ready to go, and you can add, commit, and push to it like you would on the computer you first created it on. So everything will work the same. Basically, what this will allow you to do is if you have multiple computers, you can do some work on one, add, commit, push, and then pull it. Well, that's another thing I'll need to show is how to pull. And then once you have pulled it on your other computer, you can make changes on that one, add, commit, push them, and they'll also be in the cloud. So you can contribute to something from multiple computers. Obviously, people use this for collaboration too, although Azure DevOps is somewhat limited in that because the free plan for Azure DevOps limits you to 5 total members of your organization, which is, that's just how Azure DevOps is. You can pay for more, but if you're willing to pay, you might as well just pay for Git LFS instead. The reason I'm using Azure DevOps is because it's free with a bigger file size limit. So, and I'm a solo dev, and I suspect many people who might watch this are also solo devs. So that 5-person limit is not a problem for us because it doesn't count multiple computers as multiple people. It counts them all as the same person. It's just when you have multiple Microsoft accounts logging in and trying to clone stuff, that's where you run into problems. I ran into that problem when I was trying to lead a project in college that used Azure DevOps to host an Unreal Engine repository. We ran into this problem where every time we reached 5, I had to remove someone to add somebody else. So do be aware of that. But overall, that's mostly how you set this up, and I'll show how to pull, so that, because what you really need to make sure you do is before you start working on anything, if you've made any changes on your other computer and pushed them, or if you've made changes from a separate location on the same computer, same thing applies. You need to push them to the cloud, which they'll show up here once you do that, and then you need to go in and pull them, which I will once this is done. So give this a second, and I will show how to git pull, which is how you get the changes in an existing part of the repository, in like an existing copy of the repository that isn't fully up to date yet. Okay, so it's done cloning, so I'm gonna change drive into the cloned version of it. So again, just like the one in documents, we are in the master branch. That's another thing to know about Git is branches. I'm not going to explain what they are in this video. Look it up if you're curious what they are and how to use them. But basically now I'm in this one. This is a different copy of the repository from the one I put in the documents folder. They both are able to add, commit, and push. The only difference is that they are in different locations. So either way, you can open your command line to them and go in and make changes and then add, commit, push. So I don't have any changes to add, commit, push, but let's say I did. Let's say I made some changes from the documents copy, or let's say I made some from a different computer and pushed them to the server. I talked about what I need to do before I make any changes in this one, which is I need to git pull. Now, doing this right now, there's no changes staged in the cloud ready to go, so this won't do anything. But if there are, this will then pull all those changes from the cloud onto your local computer and bring your local version up to date. Now, what can happen is if you have accidentally made changes in your local version of it before pulling, when there's also changes in the cloud, you can run into a merge conflict. And those can be a real pain to solve, especially if you're dealing with not text files, which is what a lot of Unreal Engine is. So be very careful of that. I recommend just every time you are about to open your project, git pull right before it. Make sure there's no changes you don't know about in there, and make sure it's all the same, and then go ahead and open your project, make your changes, and then close it, add, commit, push like I said before, and then once you have done all that, you are ready to then pull it on a different computer and keep working on it. Now this allows you to work on multiple computers. This also allows you to just the other reason I use Git personally is because it's because it saves every single commit. You can revert to any commit you want at any point later on. So for example, late in the project, if I discover a bug, I can go a few commits back and try to see when this bug first originated. And then once I find where it originated, I can then also go back through and try to figure out, okay, what changed? And I can look through the changes because this saves all the changes. This basically, what Git does is it saves all the changes you make to a project, which is why programmers like to use it so much, because it's a good way to look through and see basically when we broke something. So you can use the same thing for Unreal Engine. So that's another reason I like to use it. It's also just a convenient way to upload and download it if you want to do it, if you want to be doing that a lot. So yeah, that's how to set up Azure DevOps. I probably will have to edit this a bit to cut out any like personal information, but yeah, that's also my first tutorial, so it's kind of scuffed. But yeah, thanks for watching. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to comment them. I'll try to answer them, but also there's other like more in-depth guides than some of the stuff I did here. I just wanted to show like a quick and dirty like setup process for someone to follow along with. So see you in the next video. Maybe I'll make more of these tutorials if people like them. So yeah, if you want to see more of those, go ahead, like and subscribe, because I might make more, and if you want to see them, go ahead and do that. So yeah, see you in the next video.